dump truck. I'm trying to make a video, and there's a dump truck back there. Give me a break. Okay. Well, hi everybody, my name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. So, guess what I'm going to talk about today? Oh yeah, that's right. YouTube spoiled it already. You read the title. Okay, well, let's get on with this watch review. This watch is a GR-B100 G-Shock watch from the Gravity Master line of G-Shock watches, designed to appeal to pilots, but the rest of us can have a good time with this watch too. Now, this watch doesn't have Multiband 6 like this other one that's sitting next to it right now, but you get the updated time information through the app, through Bluetooth, so that should happen every day anyway and be just as accurate using Casio's internet time information that comes through the app. It does have the tough solar feature that I really like, meaning that the face of the watch has a solar cell built into it, and it's going to be recharging the internal battery whenever it's exposed to normal, everyday living lighting conditions. So if you just live your normal life and make sure that this watch gets as much light as you do, it'll keep that battery charged, and you can go years and years and years without ever having to worry about changing that battery. There are variations of this watch. They have different color combinations, but basically it's the same features and functions, still using module number 5536. So you would set them up the same way, again, just if you prefer different colors. So first off, let's look here at the regular default timekeeping mode. In this mode, you've got this little dial here, and right there is kind of a fuel gauge to tell you the state of the battery charge. So if it's a low charge, it'll be way down here. If it's a high charge, it'll be way up here. Right now, we're somewhere in the middle. I haven't had a chance yet to really set this watch out in the sun and really charge it up, but it does fine here at the medium charge. This fuel gauge looks like it maybe also does not just go from 1, 2, or 3 positions. It actually kind of gives you a range in between those positions as well. When it's in this timekeeping mode up here in the digital display, you either get to show, the local time there with hours, minutes, and seconds, which should correspond to what the analog hands are doing. Or if you press this button here on the upper left, then you also get, this is a countdown to the next alarm that is set to go. So whether that alarm is set to go or it's in the off position, but it's still set, this is going to count down to that. So it's kind of nice to have maybe a silent countdown to your next alarm if you have it set correctly for that. And also, this is probably my default favorite for this timekeeping mode. You have the month, the day of the month, and the day of the week there, and you can select different languages for that day of the week. I'll show you that in a moment. When I switch modes by pressing this button here on the lower left, then you'll see that this mode indicator will change positions. Let me just show you that quickly. All right, so now it's gone to the world time indication, and I've set it to Sydney. You saw the city Sydney flash there, so that's my world time up there, while the local time is still shown on the analog hands. Next mode is stopwatch, and okay, this is fun. So I stopped it here at 14 hours and 7 minutes, and when you run the stopwatch, it's a 24-hour stopwatch. You get hours, minutes, seconds, and tenths of a second. But if you reset the stopwatch back to 0, it actually starts out by showing you minutes, seconds, and 1/1000ths of a second. So seconds, fractions of a second to 3 decimal places. And when it gets over 1 hour in the counter, then it will again shift over and show you the hours and only show you tenths of a second. It's a 24-hour stopwatch, so if you keep it going past 24 hours, it will reset to 0 and keep going, and it'll again show you the thousandths of a second during that first hour, and then only tenths of a second as you reach farther into the hours there. Okay, and you notice, again, that little needle has changed to show you you're in stopwatch mode. The next mode is a countdown timer, and you can set that, it'll actually count down and show you hours, minutes, seconds, and tenths of a second in countdown. And you can set that to anywhere from 1 second all the way up to 24 hours. you can set hours, minutes, and seconds all for your countdown there. If you want a true 24-hour countdown, you got to reset the countdown here. And then if I hold that down, I can set it. The way to get a true 24-hour countdown is to set this down to all zeros. And then when I start this, it will be a true 24-hour countdown. And you notice that the hands moved out of the position, out of the way automatically so that they wouldn't block the screen here, this LCD readout, as I was making that adjustment. So I'm going to stop this stopwatch and reset. Okay, next one is, this is your alarm setting. And you've got your hourly signal, and you can turn on or off here. Let's see, right there. And then you have 5 alarms, so you can set those to whatever you want. And using the app, you can actually customize the name of the alarm. So this one I've got set up for sometime next week, and I've actually customized the name. So rather than just say, alarm 1 or alarm 2, that one is customized. So you have 5 alarms. There's not a snooze alarm in them, but there are 5 just normal alarms that will go off once a day for the day that you've set, and then the hourly signal. So you can customize these alarms, like I said, in the app. Now here I've customized the name, but if I also go in here to the setting of that alarm, okay, there I can tell I want it for 8:45, and I can, adjust those accordingly. And then here, also I can set a schedule for that alarm. So I can, let me go back to that. Schedule, so it can be scheduled. If I push this button here on the lower right, my schedule can be daily, so it goes every day, or just one time, and I can set when that's going to happen. So the way to customize the schedule on this is you got to press mode until you get to that schedule there. And while that's flashing the word schedule, I'm going to push this button here, this adjust button, and now I can select the day that's going to go. Now I've set this for just to go the one day on October 7th here, but what I could do also is I could back this off, and it has an interesting feature here. It'll allow you to set the alarm any date from the year 1900 to the year 2099. So that's actually a way that you can, it's a day counter. If you set it to a day that's before the current date, it'll show you how many days that is. But here, if I just set that to all dashes, then that means it's going to go every October 7th every year. Or I can move to the next one here, and I can set this also all to all dashes. And now it's going to go on the 7th day of the month. So that's the way you can customize the schedule of when that alarm is going to go. Or it may be easier to do it if you use the app, and I'll show you that in a moment. So if I push adjust there, that's telling me that the next time this is going to happen is 6 days from today. And that alarm is ready to go. So again, those are all my alarms and signals. So next, if I push the mode button again, I'm just back to the regular timekeeping mode. Now here's an added feature on this small dial on the bottom of the watch face here. It has a 30-minute countdown on the right side of that dial. So what happens is when an alarm is about to go, 30 minutes before that alarm starts, it's going to start counting down on that dial. And then when it reaches 0, it's just going to then switch back to normal mode. So this is, again, another nice little way to have kind of a silent countdown to an alarm that you have set. So right now I've set the alarm to go at 2:15 for this example. So in just a moment, it's going to activate that little dial to start showing you the countdown. And then you'll see as the timekeeping keeps going over the course of 30 minutes, that little indicator will continue to count down. And then when it finally reaches the designated time for the alarm will sound, and that little indicator will go back to its normal setting, showing you the battery charge level. Now, just for the sake of illustration, let's say I was doing this at about noon, and you can see those big, thick analog hands are going right through my digital display there. And let's say I wanted to access the stopwatch functions here. And you know, it's kind of hard to run that stopwatch when you've got the hands impeding your view. So an easy way that you can move those hands out of the way is this is a light button down here. This button right under the word protection. If you push that button and while you're holding it down, push the mode button, and let me just show you how that works. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to cause the analog hands to get out of the way of the digital display and stay out of the way long enough for me to do whatever I want to do in this particular mode. If I press a button to take it out of this mode, then those analog hands are going to go back to where they were, and I'll have to manually tell them to get out of the way again. Now let's just say I didn't want to change modes, but I still wanted those analog hands to go back to their normal position while they were here. Then all I have to do is repeat this same push down the light button and the mode button together. And now those analog hands are going to go back to normal, even though the stopwatch is still running and they're kind of in the way. But if I want to do it that way, I can do it this way. So that's a rundown of some of the basic functions and features. I'll get into a little bit more with the app in a moment. But if you weren't using the app, you want to do your initial setup here. Well, you start here with the adjust button here. Hold this down for, it prompts you. It says set. Okay. Now it's going to allow you to set your home time zone. In this case, it's the Denver time zone. I'm in the mountain time zone of the United States. If you want to change that, you just use the buttons here. On the right side, the down button will move as though you're going eastward on the map, and the up button here takes you back as though you're going westward on the map. And I think by default, it kind of prompts you to start at UTC from where you were. I'm going to set it back to Denver and leave it there. I press mode again. This is for daylight saving time. If I want daylight saving time to be displayed automatically, or I want it to always be off or always be on, that's where I can make that selection. Here I can manually set the time. So seconds, if I reset that, it resets to the nearest minute. So if it's less than 30 seconds, it goes back to the beginning of that minute. And if it's more than 30 seconds, it'll go to the next minute and start there, as far as when you reset the seconds. So here's how it advances then to the next. So then you can also, change the hours, change the minutes. I pushed mode again, so now I can change the date, year, month, and date. Press mode again. Now you can select 24-hour or 12-hour display in the digital display. Now here, when you want it to display, do you want it to display month, date, and year? Or you can have it do date, month, and year in that order. Or you could do year, month, and date in that order. I'll keep it, the normal, more common American way of doing month, date, and year in the display. Here you can select, this is only going to affect the day of the week, the abbreviation of the day of the week. Will it be English, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Russian, or, I'll keep it on English. And then here you can, when you change modes, sometimes there's a little bit of a beep. You can't hear it too well on this video, I don't think, because I don't have the microphone aimed right at the watch. But if you don't want it to beep every time you start and stop the stopwatch or every time you change modes, you can mute that right there. Or you can keep it on so you have a little beep every time you change. This is asking you if you want the light to automatically come on when you turn your wrist as though you are looking at the watch. So the night light, the backlight, can either be on automatically or just stay off and will only come on when you press this light button down here. I'm going to leave it, I'll leave it on for now. Press the mode again. Now that light can either stay on for 3 seconds or 1.5 seconds, and you can select that there. I don't worry about it too much because this does have the tough solar feature. It's constantly able to recharge itself when it's exposed to normal light. So I'm not going to worry about running the battery down too much if I just leave the backlight at 3 seconds for when that comes on. Now this is where you can disable the Bluetooth reception of time information. You can have that off or on. That's one of the functions that disappears when the battery level is too low, or actually it won't be able to connect to the Bluetooth on the phone if you're currently running a stopwatch or a countdown timer. So make sure those are turned off to allow you to have that Bluetooth connection turned on. Okay, here's power save mode, so that at night between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. when you're not wearing the watch and you're not doing anything with the watch, the digital display will go blank to save power. And after like a week, I think, of if you're not doing anything with the watch for a week and you leave it in the dark, then the hands will actually stop moving as well. So you can disable power save, or you can leave that on. And when it does go into power save mode and things go blank, or even if you left it for several days and the hands stop moving, it's very easy to take it out of power save mode by just pressing any button, or if you move the watch a lot, because it does have a motion sensing device inside, or if you just expose it to adequate lighting, that'll take it out of power save mode. But it's easy enough just to press a button to get it out of power save mode. And then, okay, now we're back to the home time setup screen. So that's how you set it up. When you're in world time mode, which is right there, you can then change the time zone that you've got for world time by simply pressing these buttons here on the right side. And by default, when you start changing it, it'll start you out at UTC, and then you can move it to where you want. You can also do this in the app, and I'll show you that in a moment. So maybe I'll leave it at UTC for now. And so that's what it's showing me. I'm going to take it back to, regular timekeeping mode now. Now this is a relatively large watch compared to some of the other ones I've shown you in my video. So these are also large watches, but I think this one is just a little bit larger. Here you can see how it compares to the MTG M900 watches. These watches, again, they look large when you don't see them next to this one, but here I think they do look smaller than the one in the middle. Here are a couple of AWG M100 watches. These are also analog watches, so you can see that they look quite a bit smaller. I think these G-Shock square watches seem to be pretty small by comparison when you look at it this way. Here are a couple nice looking inexpensive watches. And again, these watches might look a little bit larger all by themselves, but when you put them side by side, this is obviously the bigger watch of the bunch. Now let's just check the weight on this watch as well. It's a big watch. Let's see how much it weighs. 86 grams. You know, that's not so bad when you compare it to, say, here's a watch with a combi bracelet, G-Shock Square, weighs in at 90 grams. Here's G-Shock Square with a regular resin band here. Okay, 49 grams. Here's a G-Shock Square with Bluetooth. Okay, 81 grams. So, you know, not much lighter than that big Gravity Master watch. Oh, and here's probably my heaviest watch here, that MTG M900. Look at that, 130 grams. So, you know, considering the size, really doesn't weigh that much, and I find that it doesn't really feel big on my wrist or feel heavy. The watch band material, it's kind of that two-tone thing going on there, and according to the instructions, this is kind of an antimicrobial, anti-odor material for the watch band. And here it's got, you know, it's kind of the double clasp buckle there, so it feels nice. I actually don't mind the way it feels at all. Oh, and look at that, kind of that stamped, kind of die-cast metal back on the watch there. Now let's look at what we can do with the app and this watch together. If you've already installed the G-Shock Connected app, you've already been through all the user license agreements and the privacy agreement, all that stuff, and you've enabled Bluetooth on your device, then when you start this app up, it's going to start with, here's a list of the various watches that use this app. It just so happens that this one is the second one on the list, so I'm going to tap on there, and it's waiting for me to connect. So for this, I'm going to hold down this connect button, the middle button on the left side of the watch, and there it just said connect. So now it's starting to connect, and look, now it's asking me to register the watch to the app, and there I go. Now we're connecting, and registration was successful. So let's move into the app here and see what we can do here. Well, by default, it's going to show you the flight log and give you a little warning about how you need to make sure that everything's legal where you're using this and in the country where you're using this. Once you've gotten through there, I'm going to skip this for the moment. and get to some of the other settings. Like here's the world time setting. You can select another time zone in addition to your home time zone. And if you click here on the time zone, it's going to bring up, well, a map of the world. And you can kind of scroll around here and select the city that you want for your world time city here on the map. And well, for this one, let's just make it Honolulu for the fun of it. And so now it's allowing me to select Honolulu. And if I just tap here to send this city information to the watch, now my world time, or my second time zone that would appear on the watch, is going to be Honolulu. And you just saw the hands spin around here, showing that it was trying to receive this information from the smart device. If I wanted to, right here, I can easily swap my home time with the world time zone, just like that. And you can see that it's going to prompt me to send that to the watch. And there I go. The watch has received that. Just takes a moment to update. And oh, look, it's going to, the hands are going to spin around and start showing me the local time in Honolulu instead of the local time in Denver, where I had it set before. All right, so there's also a countdown alarm feature here. So when you set the alarms, you sometimes get a countdown in this digital readout up here. This is where you can set those alarms. You got 5 alarms to choose from, plus the hourly signal that just gives you a little beep every hour at the top of the hour. This is where you can just simply turn that on or off. I'll go back here to where all the 5 other alarms are available. And I can go in here, see, here's my just regular morning alarm. It's just my default called AL5 for alarm number 5. I can go in and I can change that from AL5 to something else. I'll just call it, let's see, wake up. Keep it simple. Okay, so there's the new name of my alarm. I can now send that to the watch. Also, if I wanted to, this is where I could change the parameters of this. Instead of having it go every day at 6:20, I could have it just go one time, the next time 6:20 in the morning rolls around, okay? Or I could set a schedule and I could have it go, let's see, every day on that particular day of the month. Or I could have it go, every day on that month, or I could have it go, let's see, every year just on that day, October 1st, if I wanted to. So I could set it that way if I wanted to. Another thing I could do is, let's just pick a date. Let's just say, let's pick May 25th, and let's set the year to, we can go back on this. We can go back before the year 2000. Let's go to 1977 and send that to the watch. Now, it says here, it turns off if a past date and time is set. So, of course, this is a date that happened in the past. It's not going to allow the alarm to go off because, that was over 40 years ago. But what it will tell me in the screen here is how many days have elapsed since then. So that's kind of a fun way to have it count that sort of stuff for you. But I'm going to go ahead and make that a daily alarm instead, take it back to what it was. And now I'm set. It's going to go 6:20 in the morning every day. That's why my wake up alarm. So you have options with these 5 alarms, again, to rename them and to change the schedule, do some customization there. Here under the utility screen, this is where you can set the countdown timer anywhere from 1 second all the way up to 24 hours if you leave it at 0. Let's see, just for the fun of it, I'm going to set it to, say, 2 hours, send that to the watch. You can't start and stop this countdown timer from the app, but it does mean that the next time I look at the countdown timer on the watch itself, it's going to be set to make that a 2-hour countdown. Now, if I tap up here in the corner, this little gear icon, that's for setting things. And I can go in, there's my watch, the Casio GR-B100. And if I go in there, I can actually change the name of the watch if I wanted to, instead of, let's see, instead of calling it the Casio GR-B100, if I just want to call it, say, Gravity, just call it Gravity. And if I return there, okay, that's where you can customize it as you will. Now, it's got a lot of settings here. I'm going to start from the bottom. This is where you can adjust the daylight saving time setting for your home time zone. You can also, this is where you can check the alignment of the hands using this, power save settings. So a lot of things that you can do here that maybe you could also do on the watch itself, but it might be easier to access those things using the app. You know, your light settings, you know, let's see, the sound of the operation, if you want that to be muted or not. So those are all there. Also, this is something that you can do here, a phone finder. So you can actually have it so that you can press a button here on the watch, and when you do, it will make a sound on your phone if you're trying to look for your phone. So this is where you can select they've got 3 little songs that it can play on your phone when you try that feature. And so here under unit setting, you can make it, you know, metric or the English system for miles or kilometers. And then here's a little tutorial on how to use the flight log function. So let's go back to that right now. I'm going to briefly switch to my phone here because I was driving around earlier and I logged some information here on this section here. This is where they call it flight logs, but while you're out and about, you can tap on this button. Instead of holding it down for a full connection, you can just tap on it, and that will temporarily connect you just long enough to reset the time on the watch and update that time. And also, this inside the app will keep a log of what time you did that and where you were when you did that. And you can look at your last point, and it will bring up a map and show you where you were when you made that last connection, and it saved your position. Also, if you go here to all points, then it will show you the last several positions on the map that you've done. You can kind of scroll down here to see some of the other locations. And again, it saves the GPS coordinates, shows you where it is on a map, and saves the time that you were there. And if I click on any one of those small thumbnails, it'll bring up a larger map. I can even click up here and bring it to a full screen on that map and show you where I was when I recorded that time and location. But also, if I go back up here, and here it says single up in this section here, but also here's a group, and I've created a grouping of several points when I took a drive around the lake. So I added all of those points to this group, and now I can tap on there, and it'll show me a map, and I can go full screen on this map here and show you the route I took as I drove around the lake. Now, if I go back, it says 3D map, and this is kind of fun. Now, as I'm looking at this right now, it occurs to me that this particular feature could prove to be even more useful than it already appears to be. So I think this warrants some further exploration, and I think as I use this on an ongoing basis, I'm going to discover some things about it that I couldn't possibly imagine at this moment. So I'll keep working on this one. Now, already I can see that if you go back to this screen, scroll down to the bottom, now you have an option to export the data in this list to a file that you could use maybe in other software. So I'm going to have to explore that option, of course. And another thing you can do with the app is press on this that says Guide and then View Guide right here. And it will show you what all the buttons do in time mode, in world time mode, stopwatch, timer, and alarm mode. So if you ever need a quick tutorial on how to reach a certain function and what do the different buttons do, and sometimes a tap of the button on the watch does something different than a longer hold on the same button, and you get all the instructions here on how to access what you want to with the watch's buttons. There's also a little icon up here in the upper left corner of the app, and that is also a little thing that shows you how well your battery is charged. Now let's just quickly check the backlight. Well, that's what it looks like compared to this G-Shock Square next to it. So, you know, they both look pretty good. This one, however, it just has, it seems extra bright. See, there's a light emanating from the lower left side of the face, and also a light right there for just the digital portion. So together they're pretty bright. And then of course, in addition to that light, there's some luminescent material on there, so you can light up portions of the face of the watch, you know, using Typical glow-in-the-dark stuff. Well, that's about it for now. I know I haven't told you absolutely everything there is to know about this watch, but I think I've told you enough to kind of get the ball rolling. One thing, if you're not sure that your phone is set to the exact accurate time, that's okay. The app actually gets its time from some source that's chosen by Casio. So even if your phone is not perfectly accurate, the watch should stay accurate thanks to Casio's app. All right, so I guess that's about it for now, except I've never told you anything about this watch before. So you know what that means? That means stay tuned, because pretty soon there's going to be yet another all-new episode of The Good Timekeeping Show.